on the other end of my screen right now, that is PartTImerZack. I'm especially to have you here today. But I think you might need to give a little bit of an intro for yourself. How would you describe yourself to the fellow viewers today?
My name is PartTImerZack. I typically make mobile gacha game content on the YouTube channel. Right now, we're really heavily focused on Arknights. Kind of captivated me quite well. So,
Mm-hmm.
I just like to kind of bounce around different things. I'm pretty monotone, but
What's the
yeah, I
word
try to.
monotone mean?
It pretty much means like my voice is pretty like flat. Like I don't have a lot of highs and lows and emotions. I feel like,
Oh, I think that still works
some,
out. I don't think that's a bad
yeah.
thing.
Oh
It,
no, but it's always funny because like when I first started YouTube, people would always say like, "No, where's your energy and stuff?" It's like, hey, I'm happy, I'm excited. It's just it's just a straight line for my tone of my voice.
I'm gonna flip my camera. Give me a little while. You will see me in the flip version because it will not
Okay.
appear flip in my video. Yes, looks fine. Okay, yes. Right. Now, I got a bit of a surprise because I did watch some of your videos so that I at least get to know
Okay.
you a little better. But I come to learn that it seems like you have a longer history in YouTube than I do. When do you start YouTube?
I think my channel is 2 years old. I didn't really go like I wouldn't say full time because I still work and stuff, but to put like the amount of effort into it, I would say it's been a little over a year. That I've been like consistently uploading stuff and just like putting out
You know,
content.
if you started in 2021 or 2020?
My channel is actually in 2019 is when it originated, but I would say that I actually tried in like 2020.
Right. Okay.
So I
We
guess
are going to hear on all those stories. But before that, it's like all the guests, I always ask people to bring some food. It sets the mood a bit for us and lets us enjoy the little convo. So I think I've seen a bit of your food. There's a little teaser by your side. I'm going to show you what I have. It's something that may be guessable but may not be. It's like the kind of food. Do you watch anime?
Yeah, I do.
So it's like the kind of sweet food that you kind of wish to have if you go to Japan. Might you have a take on what that is?
I would think Pocky, but I'm not really sure.
Pocky, no. Pocky would be nice, but it's more like a snack. Although this food could be a snack. Now, it's something that you typically see in anime, I would think. This is, it's starting to fall. I'm very worried for it. But this is a strawberry shortcake. So it's got sweetened strawberries on top, and then it's like cream right around it. And I'm happy enough to eat it. Now, I'm eating this because I already had my dinner, so I'm just getting myself like a little dessert for the night. It's been a long day actually. I spent a lot of time today filming stuff, so that's why. Yeah, but this is a nice treat to end of the day. Now, how about your end? What do you have on your table?
Well, for me, it's morning. It's actually 9 a.m. So I have the old American way of cereal. We're currently in the process of moving, so all of my
What's the
this is
brand?
just Rice Krispies, Rice Krispies.
Oh, would that be the favorite cereal? I'm gonna take a piece because it's starting to fall.
My favorite cereal is Frosted Flakes, but my girlfriend kind of decides what we get for cereal, and I just eat it.
Actually, for American cereal, right, a lot of it tends to be very sweet. Would you not say that?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. No, a lot of our stuff is Rice Krispies would be more of the bland stuff, but even in America, we add like sugar to it. A lot of people will put spoons full of sugars into it.
Well,
And then otherwise, though, yeah.
I was watching a video about American breakfast. There was a guy ranting about how he didn't like American breakfast and everything was made out of sweets. It's like waffles is sweets, pancakes, cereals, and all. There's a particular cereal that I'm so intrigued to try, but I haven't got to make myself do that yet. Because I mean, I can imagine I can get it in Singapore, but the cereal is Lucky Charms. It's
Lucky
the one.
Charms, yeah.
Lucky Charms is so loaded on the marshmallows and all. Honestly, it's a dessert. It's totally not meant for breakfast, but then somehow children have it. So that's an intriguing thing. But that looks fun and simple. Oh, there's more than.
Well, I guess my girlfriend just brought me this.
Now that's more than cereal.
Huh?
There's more than cereal now.
Apples and kiwi. Yeah. Well, she gotta make it a little healthy. So we got kiwi and apples and then waffles.
That's a nice little breakfast. The waffles wouldn't have any sauce on it. Not just a plain waffle. Oh, that's good enough.
Yes.
Sometimes I have my waffles plain as well. No need for all the maple syrup all the time. But that's a fun little way to wake up to. So in any case, we can carry with that first question that I asked you, because if that was the case, right, then what got you to start YouTube back then?
So I tried my hand. Actually, I've been doing content creation for a long time. I used to do Twitch pretty
Oh.
exclusively. I never really thought about making a YouTube channel. It was just kind of like back in the day where you thought maybe you could just go on Twitch, stream, and then grow.
Mhm.
And so I did that for a while. And then I always had a problem with like kind of falling out with Twitch because, you know, it just took a lot of time, I felt like, to
Mhm.
stream for like 4 or 6 hours. And then I started to kind of look up some different ways to make content creation because I've always been super into it. And then I
Mhm.
found out that YouTube would probably be more useful for that amount of time because, you know, discoverability and stuff like that. So I started getting into that. I used to play like first person shooters, battle royale stuff when I first started the channel.
Mhm.
But I've started to recently discover that I don't really care about
Mhm.
those types
Mhm.
of, you know, games and stuff like that. So I've always played Dokkan when it first
Ooh.
started, very,
Mm.
very, very old. So I was like, you know what? I kind of like these gacha game mobile games and stuff like that. And so I kind of looked around and I saw that people are actually, you know, doing content on it. And I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. I mean, I like this kind of stuff too. So, you know, I dove into a couple of newer games and stuff. And then
Mm.
that was kind of like what made me want to do it. And then obviously seeing that, you know, the growth and stuff there. Cause like, you stream on Twitch, right?
I do. In fact, I first started with Twitch like you. I didn't start with YouTube first. Yeah.
And did you see sign like sort of the same thing where like it was kind of a slower growth on Twitch before you made your YouTube, or did you have
No,
quite a bit?
my story of Twitch is a bit different. So, um, today, right, if people were to ask me what's my favorite platform, though YouTube is bigger on my end, I actually enjoy Twitch a lot more because um, Twitch was where I first began, and back then I was kind of like you, where I'll try a lot of different games, but I had the same sort of mindset where, um, at a certain point I started to switch to mobile games. Actually, all my life I've been playing mobile games a lot because I only properly owned a PC in 2020. So that was when COVID hit. And then after that, everyone was home stuck. And I'm like, I've got cash. I saved some money up. And why don't I just buy a good computer? So it's only then that I managed to enjoy computer games. But all this while, I've been like a phone gamer, whether is it like playing some random arcade-ish games. I'm a rhythm gamer as well. And then I picked up Arknights. So during then, when I did Twitch, I was thinking to myself, like, okay, I've tried all sorts of games. I played Subnautica in the past. I played real-time strategy games. I don't know if you hear of the Command Conquer CNC, Command and Conquer series. And then afterwards, I also played a hit game or like a popular game. If you may guess it, it would be Five Nights at Freddy's. Because I was like, yeah, people would probably get it. And when I did that at first, right, of course I did get viewers. It was largely children.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
so yeah, then after a while I was thinking to myself, I'm playing Arknights right now. I'm enjoying the game for kind of what it is. I was playing it for like 2 or 3 months. And then I think to myself, I mean, if I like the game, why don't I just stream it? I was a little pressured then, because that was around the time when some of the other older creators were streaming, and they were really, really big. So speaking of people like Zeus, Akron, Tectone in the past, and at that point in time, I felt pressure, but then my friend said, just go and try it. And so I did, and I streamed on Twitch. And then I realized, actually, I could get an audience there. It's not as significant as YouTube. But the reason why I feel I managed to get an audience was because Arknights was small. So
Yeah.
if you actually, even today, when you look at the Twitch scene of Arknights, right, it's not like you look at FPS games and mobile games. You go into their page, you want to sort the streamers. It's always pages after pages. So you'll never be able
Right.
to find like a person that you want to watch. But Arknights was different. Even today, as much as there are more streamers now, it only fills up like the front page. You barely need to scroll. You can see everybody in the front. So I think that was the benefit that I had, that people could identify me if they played the game. But Twitch was pretty small back then. Like for a lot of our streamers, when all the older creators left, we were clocking in like 50 viewers, 40 viewers at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not comparable to today where we have like many people maybe getting more than 100, 200 viewers when they just stream on Twitch. Because I think that was like a culture that we slowly established. But yeah, I stuck with Twitch first. And then 6 months later, I went to YouTube, which was the same reason as you, which you said you thought that YouTube can give you more discoverability. So it was the same idea. Like I got spoken to by a viewer of mine who told me, hey, if you want to like grow your Twitch, you want more people to watch you there, then why don't you do YouTube? Because that way you can get people to discover you and then maybe watch you for your streams on Twitch. So I did that, and I think it had a positive effect from doing that. But all this while, my content creation sort of life has been central to AK. So I've not ran away from that yet. So I originally started wanting to be a variety streamer. Like I wanted to like play different games, do all sorts of stuff, and not be restricted. But thereafter, I came to realize a lot of people were watching me for this. And then I decided, okay, I'll hone my craft in this game and get better at it so that people watch me. And 2 years and counting, no, I've not streamed for 2 years yet. I think my 2-year anniversary is in 2 months from now. But yeah, almost 2 years, I'm still here after that long. So that's like the backstory of how I came to like Twitch. Although then for you, if we go to where it left off, so you tried Twitch, then after you went to YouTube. Then how would you describe that starting phase?
So for like YouTube, it was kind of weird because I was trying to find my foot, kind of like what you were explaining earlier, where you're kind of streaming a couple different things, and then you kind of found like kind of the niche, I guess you'd say, and interests and stuff like that. I feel like that was kind of how it was for YouTube. I would gain some traction on a couple of games, but I didn't feel like my heart was in it. Like especially when I was doing FPS stuff. I grew up on a lot of FPS, you know, Xbox, PlayStation, all that kind of stuff, Halo, Call of Duty. And I don't really know at what point I started not to really like it, I guess, or whatever. Like I'll still play casually, but not to a point where I felt like when I streamed and like, you know, did YouTube on that stuff, people really like to watch like one of two things. They either want to watch the person that's like insane at the game, the person that's put so many hours in, that done all the cool things, or somebody that's like, I don't know, can transform it in some sort of way to make it like super high entertaining. And it just I don't think it felt like it fit my personality for what I was trying to do. You know, like I try to make my Arknights stuff entertaining and stuff, but I'm more like analytical. I like to explain what I'm kind of doing. I like to, I guess, give my perspective on it. And I really feel like the community and Gacha gaming and Arknights allows me to kind of explain, you know, like my perspective, and people really like that, like especially with Arknights, which is one of the things that drew me in, because initially I didn't really like tower defense games. I said that kind of in my beginning of Arknights. I looked at it and I was like, you know, because I watched my friend play, I don't know if you know, like Toon Balloon or something with the with the
No way.
monkeys. It's like a web browser.
Blue Star
My buddy,
Defense.
yeah, I couldn't remember what it was, but I remember my buddy used to play in high school, like 2014. I always watched him do it, and he'd just play it through school all the time, and he thought it was really fun. But I was always like, you know, how complicated can it get? It seems like you're just kind of putting things around. And then I checked out some of like the PVs and trailers for Arknights, and I could feel instantly whenever I watched this stuff that the devs in the community was very like on board around the story and the content. And for whatever reason, I was like, okay, that to me means more than what kind of genre it is. And then I actually dove into the gameplay, and I actually like, wow, this is a lot more sophisticated. There's a lot of ways to do this. Whenever I watched my buddy play that other tower defense game, it seemed like the most optimal way is like this. It's just that's it, you know, the one path. But in Arknights, it's like you have a couple different ways. Of course, you could use meta units and be the most, you know, optimized. But like there's ways to get past stuff. And it was really fun. And I thought to myself, like, I can make content on this, because even though the veterans have played and they've done the stages, I had a lot of people saying, like, I like watching somebody suffer, to put it, you know, nicely. You know what I mean? So people would be like, I like watching somebody go through it and trying to see what they come up with. And then I had a lot of people saying that some of the stuff I was doing sometimes would mirror some of the stuff that you guys were doing. And then sometimes I would do something different. And it was always kind of fun to see, you know, oh, that's interesting. It's a cool little take on Arknights that you can do things like way differently and have different units and stuff like that.
Interestingly, one thing I'd like to say to my viewers on Twitch is that at this point, if I want to describe the AK community quite simply, a fun way is I would say Arknights has the most sadistic and masochistic community that you can find together in one. So this thing in a way where people, it's like what you say, people enjoy just seeing someone going through the process and then working it all out. And then the masochistic part comes in a way where the difficulty of the game can be quite high at times, but yet the players stay for the pain and they all just enjoy the process of figuring things out. It's an interesting community to see that a lot of people here play this to appreciate like the craft that AK has. The fact that a lot of the events, the stages, and everything is all intricately designed for you to really think about what you're doing in the game. That's something that we will get to in a little bit. Now, I do have a curiosity when it comes to your YouTube, which is, how do you come up with your name?
Oh, PartTImerZack. So in high school, in high school, I did wrestling a lot, and there'd be times where I wasn't like fully devoted to it. So in my school, when you didn't show up for practice and they showed up like, the day later or something, they call you a part-timer. And I had I had a real time of like committing to wrestling. So eventually they just call me a part-timer all the time. And I went through kind of a stage where when I first started YouTube, I thought that you had to have like the name, like whatever it had to be, it had to be catchy, it had to be all this stuff. And I was like going through all these different names. I was like, how about I just make it personal? Nobody's ever going to really get it unless they ask, of course. It doesn't really make any sense because a lot of people always say like, what happens if you go full-time YouTube? Are you going to change your name to PartTImerZack or something like that? And it's like, well, it's not because of that. It's more of like a honage because I've had a lot of issues committing to like a certain craft or a certain like, hobby or something like that. So if I were able to do and put all my time and effort into YouTube, I'd be called PartTImerZack because of the wrestling thing. But I don't know. Personally, it'd make me feel accomplished, I guess, because it was the one thing that I could put all my time into.
Oh, but it's good to feel a connection with the name. Even my name, which I call myself Kukikaze, it's actually not like on the fly. I've made the name when I was way younger. Like I made it when I was 13 or 14. I had a video explaining the whole thing, but to cut it short, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but the front part of the name is obviously for the fact that I liked cookies when I was young. Like I really, really love cookies. Anything cookie flavored is nice, and I still do eat cookie flavored things nowadays. But the second part of the name was a bit more chaotic. It was like, let's call it the dumb child phase. I say I played a lot of war games in the past. So the name derives from the fact that I was looking. The name derives from the fact that I was looking at what we would consider as bomber planes. So in a particular war game that I played, you had the ability to send planes into your enemy's base. And then you can take the planes and you can strike it down to destroy whatever that was. So the young me went to go and figure out, what's the term for this? And I was like, okay, apparently it was called kamikaze. Kamikaze pilots. That was a thing that it was in the past that the Japanese did. And then at that point in time, because I was young, I thought those planes were pilotless. I thought those planes were like unmanned drones, high technology. You send the thing and then it goes all the way down. It's like, wow, so cool and everything. So I called myself Kukikaze unknowingly because I was like, hey, it seems cool and all. Until 2 years after I created the name, that I came to realize, oh wait, those kamikaze pilots, they were pilots. They were actual people in the plane. And then I got frightened by my own name and I ran away from it. But then after a while, when I was recollecting all like the names that I made when I was younger, I was like, this one has a good ring. Like I called up my friend. I'm like, hey, could I use this name? He's like, yeah, it's interesting to pronounce if people know how to pronounce. And I lived with it ever since then. So that's how people come to know of me as Cookie till today. Yep. Interesting things. We put names that are pretty personal to ourselves. It makes me wonder how everybody else creates their names when it comes to their YouTube stuff. But
sometimes I feel like people just kind of like put something and then they just kind of go with it.
Yeah, and then they live with it, and then it becomes their persona like 100% thereafter. It was interesting that you made the little joke about full-timerZack, which I was going to also ask. May you have a full-time job now?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you working something else while being a content creator yourself?
So I do school, and then I'm also doing like I'm an engineering support. It sounds fancier than it is.
No, it's
just pretty much you just take diagrams and stuff like that. And I don't know if you're familiar with AutoCAD.
I've heard it. Yes.
You pretty much just like check like we do enclosements and stuff like secondary power. So like our
Mm-hmm.
windmills here, and I live in Iowa. I don't know if you know where that is in the
Mm-hmm.
US, but we have huge windmills, so they just do secondary power in case that goes out. They can, power it up. So pretty much all I do is just label that everything has a connection,
Mm-hmm.
and then I just give them the labels to the shop, and then they put the wires where they need to go and make sure that it's all wired up correctly. So
But you're still in school at the moment.
mhm.
Are you
Yeah,
around
I'm
my
going
age if
to
that was the case?
I'm 26. I don't know how old you are.
Oh, no, I'm younger. I'm 22. Right. But
Yeah, I'm pretty
then
old.
if you're in school at the moment, what like level of education would this be considered in the US?
So I'm about 6 months away from my bachelor's. I don't know.
Ah,
US I feel like is a little bit more relaxed on college education and stuff like that. It's still pretty prominent over here, but I feel like our culture doesn't take it as seriously.
uh,
Unfortunately, for the most
it,
part, a
it
lot of
is a
people
thing. It
don't.
is a thing. Yeah. In the Western countries, education is a more free and easy thing. It's as and when people want. Over on my side in Asia, there tends to be a pressure that people
Mhm.
must go to school, get the bachelor's as you mentioned, and then do well in life and all. And then most of the time, this causes too much stress in the young ones. Yeah, but I'm not one who thinks that you need school to survive, but I just do it because that's how society puts it. That they say that you gotta go to school, so I just live with it. I'm also in school, same as you. You're 6 months away. I'm 3 years away, to completing my bachelor's degree. So it's gonna be quite a while. Um, and now that I think about it, you are actually having school. You are working a job in the meantime, and also making videos. Would this be
Mhm.
not quite a juggle?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of gets to a point. I mean, I try to put on time for different things. I think the way that I've kind of built up my, I guess, editing style and the way that I kind of do stuff, I'm more of like a one, I don't know how you like record videos, but I'm more of like a one take person. So I'll go through an entire video, and if I mess up somewhere or I say something wrong, I don't usually like adjust it and then cut that part out. I will just restart. Like there's a lot of times where I'll go all the way to the end, and then I'm like, I definitely could have rephrased that all better. Now, when it comes to like gameplay and stuff, like first time going through it, I can't really do that because like the whole
Yeah.
premise is to do it for the first time. But if it's something like I'm explaining a game or something like that, or doing something, if I go through it, I'm like, that's just not good enough or whatever, I'll just redo it all.
Oh,
That's just the way that I am. I feel like
you have the same habit as me. I also have a one take habit, which it's a problem. One take habits is a problem because you might end up restarting a lot. That's something that I end
yeah.
up doing. And at the same time, if you happen to like make any videos that are super long, you end up not like you might, even if you mess up once, you can restart the whole thing and then you start to say, oh, I fixed this part, but I messed up another part. So it's quite a hell thing. But of course, doing one take lowers the editing. That's kind of the
Yeah.
idea, like why we think we want to do it. But then after a while, maybe we rewatch and we realize, okay, maybe I'll cut this sentence, maybe I'll
Yeah.
piece this out. So I'm trying to get away from that. Even I do have some editors on hand, and even they tell me, "Hey, Cookie, just film faster. We'll edit for you." And I say, "No, no, 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 no. I'm gonna make sure that I do myself correctly." So, it's a pain to video edit. If people were to ask me, like to just choose one place to be, it's kind of like just now when I said that Twitch would be my preferred platform. Yeah, that I would still prefer Twitch. The only reason why I'm on YouTube still is this is also where the other community that I have that has developed. You know, there's an audience here, there's
Mhm.
people who want videos. So I can't really shy away from it. But I find live streaming a lot simpler because you are free and easy. You don't need to be too bothered about what you say. Everything is reactionary. No need to backtrack, no need to retake, and just go
Right.
with the flow. So that's that. I do recall hearing a video that you've mentioned that you may have intentions to do live streams, but then you are unable
Mhm.
to because internet is trouble. Would that still be a thing?
Yeah, so we're actually in the process of moving. Next weekend I will be moved, and
Ooh.
then my internet will be pretty high. It'll be pretty up there. So I'll probably start to stream. I don't know how I really want to do it.
Uh-huh.
Because I kind of want to do it on YouTube, but the whole like, having all your eggs in one basket type of thing is kind of scary because like if anything ever happens to YouTube, that's kind of it. Whereas like, if you got your Twitch, you can kind of like, if anything ever happens to your Twitch, you still got YouTube. If anything ever happens to your YouTube, you still got Twitch. Like,
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like, you can
yeah, I
still
do
kind
get
of
what you
build.
mean. Mm,
So, not that I would think that my YouTube would just vanish, but but you never know. So,
right,
I would also say that the Twitch culture is better for live streaming. The community feels a little bit more geared towards streaming and stuff like that.
right,
So I think like YouTube is starting to build that. But I think YouTube's on the track of like 2 years from now being to a point where Twitch is already kind of at community wise, where everybody's starting to get accustomed to it. You can find live streams because that's a big thing. A lot
right.
of people say they can't even find live streams on YouTube. So I would probably start out on YouTube. That's kind of where everybody's at and just kind of see what everybody wants. I kind of am hesitant to try to get like a small amount of people to go to a different platform. I know a lot of people already use Twitch, but I always feel like it might be a little bit easier for the people like when I first start, like, oh, I already watch this YouTuber on YouTube. I'll just watch when he's live and go
Right.
from there. But it's kind of up to YouTube whether they push the live content or not. But
I think YouTube
um,
is trying to make some changes to their stuff, especially with their focus and shift to YouTube gaming being one sector that they care
mhm,
for. I do see merit streaming on YouTube compared to Twitch. The only reason why I still stay there on Twitch is that I've already garnered an audience there, and it's to the point where there is a big enough following over there for me to sustain my live streams. Although when I compare to say some of the new streamers or even old time streamers of Arknights on YouTube, their viewership will tend to go over what I have on Twitch,
mhm.
which is for the reason that Arknights has a much smaller viewer base in Twitch. I've always received comments where people say, "Oh, it's nice that you bring highlights from like your stream to YouTube, but I wished for you to one day stream on Twitch." And I'm like, "No, that's not really my interest. I don't have the thought of like putting everything in one place. It's more of I feel that when that happens, it will kind of like cloud up everything that I'm doing. So one
Yeah,
thing that YouTube is currently terrible at is that your shorts, videos, streams, everything appears in the same column. Like they're not separated. So if you see an
like in
example
your
of,
videos.
yeah, everything will clump in the videos and then it'll be sorted by the upload date. So
Yeah,
and then if you're someone who make videos and you stream at the same time, you're gonna see, oh, short videos and long videos. Unless you clean up, maybe put it in the playlist. But then if you put things in the playlist and you hide your videos, you also end up making it hard for people to find stuff. So
mhm.
that's like the biggest trouble. Like I like the distinguishment between, oh, my Twitch is to stream and my YouTube is for people to watch videos. But I do think starting on YouTube nowadays is a little bit better because I'm sensing Twitch is going wrong.
There's a lot of stuff that Twitch is doing that people aren't liking. Like obviously the culture is still there. But YouTube being the size that it is,
Yeah,
all it really, like in my viewpoint, all it really has to do is make a couple of adjustments and it could take a lot from Twitch. It's so slow because YouTube's such a monster of a algorithm and there's so many
yeah.
different things that they have to do. Because interesting that you brought up the point about splitting stuff. I don't know if you've seen the announcements. They're actually doing that in your analytics, where they're going to split your analytics between shorts, live streams, and videos,
Oh,
so you can see what each
yeah.
one does. I don't know if that's going to
Oh,
translate to like actually on the profile for viewers. That would be like hopefully the next step is that they would have different tabs for
man,
each thing because that would
that
make more sense.
yeah, that will make it even more lucrative. And there's a lot of streamers who are starting to port over to YouTube as well, like big time Twitch streamers that
Yeah,
are going
they're
over.
pulling a lot of people.
Yes, so I shall not remain pressured by that for now. I'm still like,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm like that one meme where they use like the wooden stake. Hey, Twitch, do something. Like hurry
yeah.
up, improve yourself. Yeah, but who knows what will happen from then. Now AK, we bring back to there. As much as you are making videos for AK, it wasn't the first video that you made, right? Like the
Like on
first
my
few
YouTube channel.
videos, yeah, the first few videos were actually other games at first.
Yeah, so I think like if you want to track it back just to Gacha in general, not even doing the FPS stuff, I think the first game that I really covered would be early counter side. I think that's for maybe the JP version, and then we also did My Hero Academia Strongest Hero.
Oh,
I don't know if you're into My Hero Academia. Game started
mhm.
out strong, kind of took a nosedive, some of the different things that it did. So, whatever. And I never really wanted to touch, just real briefly, I never really wanted to touch like the bigger games. I really love Dokkan, but I've always used it as like, I like Dragon Ball Z. I just collect Dragon Ball Z characters. I've never really done anything to clear anything,
Right.
and plus I feel like people kind of have a hold on that genre. Like it's a pretty old game. So whoever's
Mm-hmm,
there is
mm-hmm.
there. And so then we went into Punishing Gray Raven, which was pretty popular in CN.
Yep.
Obviously, it had been out for a little bit before Global, but we really
Mm-hmm.
hopped on the Global, really enjoyed it. For better or worse, it's kind of just sailing on the smooth
Mm-hmm.
line there. But yeah, so that was just kind of like the start would be My Hero Academia, which is kind of funny to look back because I'll look back at the way that I did stuff and like the games that
Uh-huh,
I
uh-huh.
covered. And I always laugh. It's kind of funny because it's like, can't believe I covered some of that stuff. Well, because initially I feel like I actually kind of got influenced by some of the bigger channels
Right.
because we used to cover, now I do more like, I wouldn't say like analytical stuff, but like more like first impressions, gameplay, kind of like my take, kind of my perspective on things. Whereas when
Uh-huh.
I first started, it would be more about like news around a particular game. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the reason I kind of dove away from doing that is because I felt that I was watching bigger content creators and they would, I don't want to say anything about anybody, but it seemed like there were more like drama alerts. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, dev does this, dev really bad. Let's, complain. And then they get a lot of views because as much as you'd like the positive to get views, you want to
Mm-hmm.
be like joyful and stuff like that. It always seems like, I don't know if this is your experience as well, like people who have negative takes on stuff usually get like a lot of people that are negative. Of course, you're
Yeah.
breeding a community that's not very not very nice. They're usually pretty toxic people, but so I started to get a little bit influenced, I guess, by that. And I would like, especially My Hero Academia, I disagreed with a lot of the stuff the devs did. I
Mm-hmm.
always try to be like professional about it because I know that they're a dev team and they're trying to do what they can do or
Uh-huh.
whatever. But yeah, so I started to step away from the news stuff because I felt that I was being influenced a little bit in a negative light. And I was like, I don't really want to be the drama channel. I
Yeah.
want to make sure that I'm, because I'm a pretty optimistic person. I'd like to say monotone, but positive. I have
Right,
a
right, right.
positive outlook on stuff. So yeah, so it's pretty interesting to see how kind of things are shaping up in the gacha world, and I'm sure you've probably seen a lot of gachas come and die. It's kind of the cycle
Yeah. It
of
does,
a
it
lot of
does.
gacha games. So
Mm-hmm.
the main thing that I've always been trying to do is find something that's like stuck, I guess, a little bit, which is another reason that I was really drawn to Arknights is because of the community and the fact that it's been doing well. It always has regular updates and stuff like that. I know it follows like the CN schedule and stuff like that, but it's just nice to be able to see that it has a foothold and it's not really seemingly going to go anywhere for a bit. So I was getting
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
tired of covering games that are just like, okay, really cool, popular, and then something happens and then they're
Right.
gone. So I was like, okay, well, I can't really base a channel on that.
In a sense, it's
So
like a thing that you enjoy of AK now is the fact that there's some stability to the game. Like the game is actually looking like it's understanding what it's doing for what it is.
yeah, that's a big thing for it. It's just like it really feels like I don't know, like I've never talked to the devs, but everything that they do for like the PVs and trailers, it really feels like they put a lot of emotion in telling the different stories and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always been kind of a draw just from the beginning, before I even like the tower defense aspect of it. I'm just like, oh, the devs really care and the community really loves the game. So it's like that's a huge draw.
Mm. Um, if I recall just now from your answer, the way that you discover AK is actually just like self-serving the net to see what is going on with this game. Would that be the experience?
So yeah, so what I was doing is kind of what my channel has done a lot is like looking for like the next game or whatever we'd
Uh-huh.
cover it. But I was like, you know what? Let's just go back and see what are established games, something that maybe I missed. I did I took a look at like Epic 7, Arknights, Azir Lane, just a couple of games that are like been established for a little bit, communities
Mm-hmm.
kind of around it. And I'm like, so what are these games doing that are keeping them around? And so I was like, let's go ahead and pick one out, see if I like it, see if I can, get some sort of connection, whether it be the gameplay or the content or whatever. And I just kind of randomly chose Arknights and I was like, you know what, whatever, I'll just try this one. And then we'll just kind of make our way down a list and see like, if I like any of these kind of established games. And I didn't, by the way, I didn't make it through the list because I just went to Arknights and I was like, oh, okay, well, this is really fun. I really like this. And then I just kind of didn't go through the rest of the list. I mean, I played them, but
Mm,
I didn't feature them on the channel or anything.
right,
I was just like,
right.
eh. whatever. So
Then, how long have you played AK? It's only been quite a few months, right?
like 3 months. I think I just made a video the other day of like a 3 month review or whatever. So I think my account's about 3.5 months old or something like that.
Now, if it sounds like you're gonna do a review again, but if that was the case, right? From the start to now, just within this span of 3 months, when you first read about the game and what it is now, how would you describe them?
So when I first started, I felt like it was a little, I wouldn't say overwhelming, but of course, whenever you get into a game as a new player that's been out for a bit, you kind of
Uh-huh.
like freeze for a minute. You're like, I don't really know where to go. I don't really know what to do.
Right, right.
And so I feel like where I'm at my account right now, I'm starting to feel a lot more comfortable. I have a lot of my units built up, a lot of them I decided to go E1 on a lot of my 3 and 4 stars.
Mm,
I had a lot of people at the beginning, especially when I was hitting that 2 month mark, like, why don't you have any E2 use? Yeah. And it's like, I'm building out everybody. Cause like, and the more that I played through a lot of these events, I started to realize that I needed these 3 or 4 stars because like DP, like I was running out of stuff and it's like I can throw this guy out for like
mm-hmm,
6, I can throw this person out for 9
mm, mm,
instead of
mm,
hitting these guys for like 13, 14 or whatever.
mm,
And so I put a lot of time into E1ing a bunch of people. So it kind of stunted the whole E2 growth.
right.
And so I just recently E2'd my first op,
Who
Exia.
would that be?
Hopefully I'm saying her
Ooh,
name correct. I always feel like
Exia.
I'm
That's
not.
correct. That's correct. Exia has always
Okay.
been a very difficult name
Okay.
for everyone.
Because yeah, okay. So
Mm-hmm,
yeah, so she was my first E2. And then I started to feel like, especially after the near light thing I did NL-10. I actually used your your guide for that
that's perfectly
to
fine.
get
Mm-hmm,
through. Okay. Cause I was like, yeah, that was another thing. It was kind of not trying to go off topic, I guess, but the community is really like, hey, if you got to use a guide, man, you got to use a guide. As long as you know what you're kind of doing and why you understand it, it was kind of cool. Cause I felt really bad because I was like, I progressed through the whole near light event on my own and kind of just doing things on my own. And then I hit NL-10 and I was like, I can defeat the boss, but those archers, bro, like it's nuts. So it was really nice to see that, a lot of people are like, hey, as long as you know what you're doing for the guide and stuff. So I feel like my account's in a pretty comfortable spot. And I feel like I'm starting to understand a lot of stuff, like where to grind, what to grind, and what to get.
mm-hmm.
So yeah.
I would say that the idea of like using guides is not too terrible. When I first started, I also used guides at the early beginning. So the first few events of AK, if you look into one of the sections of the game, so there's like this section where it shows Grannies and the Knight's Treasure, and it shows Obsidian
Mhm.
Festival. Those two were the first events ever in the game, and I've never finished those events. Like I've never hit like the last stage, for example. But if you actually watch guide makers in the past and you diligently follow every one of them, you could hit the end of the event. But back then, I told myself, I think as far as I'm using guides is if this is where my stoppage point is, I shall let it be. Like this is where my account is. This is how much I
Mhm.
can do in the game. So I was perfectly fine with not clearing events. And for people who really want to clear stuff so that they can like let's say to get the freebies and whatever, I think there's no shame, especially early on. What can be a problem later in the game is if people become too reliant on guides. Then I
Right.
think that's an issue because you start to not care about learning anything in the game. And then you end up just being so engrossed by not understanding your operators. You may even reach a point where you can't even follow guides. So I've seen people who are really, really old time players and they've been using guides all their life. So at they've hit a point in the game where even though they have everything and like they're way too strong to clear off stuff, they just don't know what to do because they are trying to restrict themselves to whoever they've been watching, which is a problem. Since for a lot of us, when we make guides, we will always focus on like what we call the low rarity because that's like the
Mhm.
lowest requirement. The trouble that players don't understand is when they see the low rarity version, they don't know how to translate that to a higher rarity version after they've built like spent so much hard work on their account. So that's that. But yeah, it's not all too bad to use it here and there. I mean, I did it as well. Now everybody knows that. But I stopped using ever since like 2 months or 3 months into the game. Because after a while, I'm like,
Mhm.
I'll just discover things on my own. Just go and like AK takes a lot of fiddling around. You know, you're not necessarily gonna get everything first try. Especially since usually all the stages comes at you as a surprise when you first see them. Only after you
Right.
start to say, oh, the enemies are coming in from here, then they're coming in from here. Then so how should I go about now that I know this from them? So it's like a very every time there's a new event, it's a learning process that we're always granted to each time, which makes the game a little more interesting. Although not for everyone. Some people don't like that struggle. They don't like that difficulty. Yeah. Which is also an interesting question to ask. That is, how do you find the difficulty of the game?
I mean, personally, I like kind of like I didn't even think that I would like this type of stuff. I said in a lot of my videos at the very beginning that I didn't even think that I'd like tower defense stuff. I've always been kind of analytical, but I never thought it would be to the point of like it's kind of like solving a puzzle to me. You know, like going through it and kind of seeing what's going on. I felt like just using like the near light example, kind of like what you were talking about. Once you get initiated to like kind of a mechanic like the darkness and then like those knights that hit you if you have dark behind you and you're kind of like at the first part you're like god it's so annoying, like I have to think about each and every placement, and then at towards the end like NL-10 or -9 and stuff and -10 you start to just do it. Like you don't really think like oh well the knights are going to come out, whether they come out or not you've already started to establish that I'm just not
Right.
going to have darkness but I don't care. Like I'm not going to mess with it.
Mm, mm, mm,
So
mm.
it's just like to me it's really fun. I really felt like as I kind of progressed, of course like the archers and stuff like that would
Mhm.
get a little bit harder, but I really felt that the mechanics anyway I started to understand stuff and it made me happy to the point where it was just like oh I'm starting to get kind of what's going on here and I'm starting to get a rhythm. So it's kind of cool and I think that it's interesting that each, you know, event, each chapter has kind of a mechanic to it. And as you kind of go through it, you get a little bit more proud of yourself for first off like you just adopt it at some point and you just start to kind of put that into your gameplay and then all of a sudden you do a different chapter you're like now I have to forget that was part
Yeah,
of the
right.
mechanic, now I have to do the different mechanic. So for me it's always fun and it kind of makes my brain work in a different way versus like you know, just using like Punishing Raven for an example. I don't know if you've played much
No, I
Punishing
didn't.
Raven and stuff,
Hmm.
but a lot of it's just you know, there's like mechanics to dodging. Of course, you got to kind of pay attention, but a lot of it's just like slap, 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 dodge enemy attack, slap, 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 dodge enemy attack. You know, it just I am putting it very simplistic. I know there's a lot of I'm probably gonna get a lot of people in the comments that are like, "Yo, it's harder." Okay,
No, 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 no. You might get some
there's
people to say no. I agree.
there's levels to it, okay? But if you start to get into a position, there's not much else besides understanding when to dodge and
Right.
then being able to use like the passives and stuff. So, but with Arknights, it's like it's always throwing something different at you. Like even as like near light, it's like okay, well here's those knights that you've dealt with, and now here's a knight that has a phase 1 and he goes invincible. Now he has shards, and then you have to deal with the shards. And if you get too many shards, he goes back into phase 1. Now you have to
Right.
understand that. And then you know, because and I was so happy when I killed him. You know, I was like, yes, finally I beat this dude. And all of a sudden, because I hadn't got to the second half, and then all
Right.
of a sudden
Right.
the archers come out, and I have all my team up in the left hand corner just beating the heck out of this knight because I'm like, I'm just gonna throw everybody at him. I wasn't even thinking about the bottom lane, and then
Right.
the archers come out and they just start taking everybody out. I'm like, it's just the instant defeat of like, but I won, like I beat the boss. Like what the heck? Why are you doing this to me? So there's obviously a little frustration when that happens because you're like, oh, I did it, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow. I don't know if you've seen some of my videos. There's times where on the very last second, for whatever reason, I have like maybe a 2 block, and one person walks by,
Right. Right.
and there's nothing you
Your
can
team
do
doesn't
because
kill
you
it in
have like
time.
yeah, you have everybody deployed, and I just have to sit there and watch this one dude just walk through, and I'm like,
Mm.
that was like the perfect run. This one dude just walked through. So of course there's a level of frustration, but it's fun. I think it makes really fun content. And on top of that, it's just so what do I need to do? Like what needs to happen before that? Usually it's like something needs to happen faster or quicker or something needs to be timing. And I have really enjoyed the fact that it's so like things have to happen, which is why I felt like I needed to kind of use the guide on the NL-10 because that one I really felt like things had to happen kind of in a certain sequence. If you wanted to,
Mm.
like the way that you did it was just kind of like Blaze destroys everything. But the way that I was trying to do it, it was like to make sure that everybody comes out at the right time and do all the right things without being E2 level and having everybody super powered. It's like on my account, you'd have to do it like I felt like perfectly. So it was just like I don't know. There's a certain level of fun to that. I only had a day left, so unfortunately, I had to kind of
Mm.
be like, oh well, I have to. So yeah, so that was just kind of how that worked. But it's really fun. I think there's a level to it. Of course, not for everybody. Some people like the punishing raven thing where all they have to
Right.
really think about is how to dodge and stuff. So I think it really
That
just depends on the person.
quite interestingly, because you're only 3 months in, and soon you're going to face like very, very new stuff that is unseen before. I think with you joining the game, you have yet to experience contingency contract. I don't know if you've heard your viewers talk about it, but it's coming soon. It's
Yeah.
our ninth season. It's number 7, but in proper numerical order, it's the 9th season already. And before that, you're going to experience yet another one, which is called Mansfield Brick, which is a prison team event. A very, very interesting one. That event will be much calmer. It tends to be for new players because a lot of people quote it to be the simplest one. Released throughout the game, so that's like a nice thing. But you'll see new mechanics again, very very new kind of people, and there's no more darkness and light. All of a sudden it's like, wait, you can't let the people like get triggered. If they get triggered, they become insanely strong. That's something they'll see in a bit in that event. But each time you go into a new content cycle of AK, you're always going to see something new. That's, I think, the surprising thing of AK. You're never going to be stuck in one mind where you say, there's a reason why people don't often like to teach, like you're meant to default certain operators in the game. It's not that way, because the game makes it such that everyone will become relevant at different points in time in the game. So with that idea, you'll always be switching things up to suit the needs of the place. And that makes strategizing like even more interesting. So hopefully you'll get to enjoy that. Like, I think when I post this video, you'll be like, oh my god, there's 2 events that you experience, and then you have a different take on the game again after you see, especially for the DC contract. That one will interest you a lot. For the fact that you can change the difficulty of the map. If you're not aware, what happens is that you are able to toggle settings on the map. So the more that you toggle, the harder it gets, and you'll be rewarded more for the higher difficulty that you go. But you'll just pick up and pick up and pick up. So thankfully, this is the right time for you to join, because arguably this contingency contract that's incoming is one of the simplest ones. Yeah. Meaning to say, because usually there are some new players who will say, I couldn't even beat like a single setting because it's that bad. Like, that's what new players will say. But I think this one is a bit different. This one is actually much more lenient. So that's a nice feeling. And even after that, you're gonna, oh my god, I just realized you'll be experiencing so much content in AK. We have one of the most biggest exciting updates is to come in the game, which is, you may have heard of the name, is Integrated Strategies. Have you heard that?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, so Integrated Strategy is coming as well. And I think that could end up making you really like deepen into the game after you realize that the game is an endless mode now. Yeah, if you've not heard, it's an endless mode. It's an endless mode that doesn't use your sanity. So you can replay as much as you want, because each time you play that game mode, it's never the same. It will always be a new experience. Yes. The stages will always be new. The enemies will always be new. They will throw you anything in your face and you gotta react on the spot. So it's very, very fun. It's a roguelike event if you've played roguelike games before. And that will come in July, which is about a month from now. And that will be exciting. In this case, right, 3 months in, how would you describe then the playability of Arknights? So is it easy to pick up?
I think it takes a certain level of dedication and stuff. Like, so like you said, like earlier, obviously you could just follow guides, you could just do that forever. If you're looking to just experience like story and, collect some different characters that you find cool, I think, the guide scenario could be for somebody who's just looking to go down that path. They don't really want to learn much, which, I mean, obviously that'd be kind of sad because there's so much things that it has to offer for learning. But if that's what you want to do, whatever. But I feel like, especially at the beginning, the game does a very good job for the tutorials and stuff like that. Some of the tutorials are not really challenging to veterans because I know how to do it, but some of the stuff is like, you have to kind of think like, okay, so who do I put down when and where? Like, it does a very good job of getting you kind of like, hey, this is kind of the mechanics. You got to kind of understand when to take somebody away, redeploy them, deploy order. I think a lot of things like people get confused on, and I really tried to hone this because the comments were like, hey, redeploy order. It matters so much. I feel like a lot of new players forget because they put like a healer down as the last person. They're like, why is my units not healing? And it's like, well, because your healer was the last one down. So I think it's just a more of like, whatever you're trying to get out of it, you're going to have to put a level of effort into it. If you're really trying to get into some of the different, I had to skip some of the different events and stuff like that at the beginning because my team just wasn't strong enough. And this was the first event where I actually got to, I don't want to say play, but you know what I mean? I got to actually go through it.
Right.
And so it's really fun to be able to do that. And then you got a lot of rewards and stuff like that. But it takes a level of like trying to understand mechanics and stuff and trying to get well acquainted with teams. I think a lot of times, and even myself, I struggle with this, what you were talking about earlier, where it's like, here's a 3-star, here's a 4-star. How do you translate that to like your new 5 or 6 star?
Right.
Can you swap these units out, and do you know what they do? And do you know why the 5 or 6 star has like a little added, ability or bonus, or what makes
Right.
them different than the 3 or 4 star besides
Mm.
just DP? So it's just kind of like learning some of the different characters, because somebody might pull, like when I first got XEF from the very beginning, she was my first 6 star. I didn't know anything about her. I was just like, oh, this is cool. This is a cool looking character. And I just
Uh-huh.
never, like, I don't really care to reroll. I just, whatever I get, and I just play.
Uh-huh.
So it's just funny because like when I started, everybody's like, oh, it's an insane unit to get at your beginning. I was like, okay, well, I don't know why. Cool, thanks.
Okay.
And then she's like shredding everything all the time. So it's just kind of like, learn your characters and stuff like that. If you're not really into reading abilities, I kind of struggle with that. Learning each one of the abilities and what percentage it does and stuff like that. I'm not more of a stats person. I'll be kind of honest. I like to kind of see what it does whenever I play it, which is cool because Arknights allows you
Reactionary.
to kind of
Mm.
do it. Yeah. No, I don't think you get the full benefit because, like, if you
Mm-hmm.
know, like, Exia has like people, if you have like a buff or a debuff and stuff like that, it really amplifies her stuff. So you really kind of got to know,
Mm.
who plays with her and stuff like that. But I think like if you're looking to just try to get into it, the first month or two, it's pretty fun. Once you just realize that, let's just go through the chapters. It'll kind of teach you some basic stuff, throw different mechanics at you. Don't expect to get really far in the events or the CCs. Of course, you're probably,
Mm.
probably not going to do very much there. But if you're willing to kind of forego some of that content and stuff like that, I think a lot of people could get into it.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting when you stated, the fact that you skipped out on everything or whatsoever. It does hurt the new player a little bit at the start. Some of them might feel like, oh, they're a little left out. Can the game still
Mhm.
be functional because I'm new, and then everyone's like storming ahead with this new event? But I think one of the messages that a lot of times I like to say to these people is, don't bother with it. It's your own adventure. That's the point of this game. You're not
Yeah,
pressured by anyone. You play for your own fun. It's like you have a save point. Even if you're out of this game for 2 months, you come back, hey, the account's still going to be there for you. You can do whatever that you want later. And
right.
also, I'd like to always put forth to people that if you're someone that's new in the front few months, I'd like to call them the brutal months. The brutal months because you barely have anything. Nothing is built. You don't really know what to build. You don't really know how to build. But then, as you start to feed into things, and about maybe say 4 to 6 months in, then that's when things will start to have a foothold, and then you'll start to see, oh, I can actually clear some stuff now because I've got things that are decently built, and I just need to learn a little bit about the order. And also at the same time, when we were talking about the order, you were saying, the deployment matters. I think
Mhm.
AK breaks apart from the tradition of tower defense game because we don't tend to think about the position or the order of the operators that we place. And even more so, we wouldn't think about removing someone from the map.
Yeah, it took me a while to learn to like, you could just get rid of this person and then you get part of your DP and you could just
Right?
redeploy someone else. It took me a long time to learn that, especially like when somebody's about to die.
Yeah.
And this is something I recently learned, is sometimes it's okay to let someone die versus redeploying them. And it just kind of like, it depends on the situation. I think it's
Yes.
always probably better to redeploy, but like there's certain scenarios where it's okay to let somebody not, continue without
Right.
redeploying
Right.
them and stuff. So
It's
yeah.
a very interesting game that doesn't follow the trends of tower defense, where we would traditionally think, if we talk about balloons, it's just you plonk them there and you hope that they kill
That's
everything.
it. Yeah.
Because they're not gonna get hurt. But this game is different. Your units are gonna get hurt, and you want to try to protect them as much as they're trying to kill the enemies for you. So
Mhm.
it's all an interesting blend that makes AK quite the experience for people. Considering that you've been playing it for 3 months and uh, would AK be the main thing that you're gonna feature on your YouTube, or would you still go on a variety route?
Okay, so I'm pretty transparent. I like to so I'm pretty open as a person. So I feel like I struggle a lot with trying to think about like diversity. What can I add to the channel that people will like, and and stuff like that. I think Arknights is something that I really want to keep as kind of like the main focus, especially like with infield and stuff. I think there's a lot of branching paths that will
Right.
eventually open up for Arknights if, for example, somebody doesn't like tower defense or whatever. But I struggle a lot with like having confidence in the type of stuff that I do. So sometimes I'll post like a Arknights video and it'll do kind of like on the lower like poor side. I'm like, oh, what did I do? Like, I start to think like that. Or, if I try to post like a different video about a different game, I'm like, oh, well, the Arknights community doesn't really care about that game, which I totally understand. Like, they're there for what they're there for and stuff like that. So it's just kind of like finding a bridge and stuff like that. And I guess more or less just personally going through learning as like a YouTuber and trying to be more confident. I feel like a lot of times I just struggle with, can I just make videos about one game? Is that like, how do I do like, cause I've been doing daily content and I noticed that some of the bigger, or I'd say more like veteran Arknights content creators, they tend to kind of take 2 or 3 days because they put out like really information packed videos is kind of how I want to say it. So obviously it takes time to do that. Whereas right now I have the luxury of being like the first time person, like the new player. So I have kind of a little bit of a luxury, I kind of feel like, in the content that I make, because starting a little bit later, I guess. I don't know how many people are starting right now, but it
But there
sounds like
are,
from the
there are.
comment.
There's still a
Yeah,
lot
it
of new
sounds like
players.
yeah, that's what I was really surprised by, because I still get comments that are like, I really like watching somebody new because like I'm new, or some of the veterans like to watch because I haven't seen a new content creator start from scratch for a while or whatever. So I have a luxury, I feel like. I just feel like when it comes to like how I want to make content, I just got to be a little bit more confident and a little bit more goal oriented. I don't know, because like I don't know if you have like a particular goal set in, whether you want to share that or not. Well, like with your YouTube channel, like this is where I kind of want it to be, or you're just kind of like, here's the idea of what I want it to do, and wherever things lead
Uh-huh.
to get to that point's fine. Because I know some people are just like, here's the goal, here's all the steps that I got to do to get to that goal. I'm more of like, because personally, and I'll be honest, I want it to be full time eventually. I would like to be, whether I'm still working a job or whatever, I'd like to be able to make like a full-time income. So I treat it like that. I treat it like, I want to make videos that are fun for me, fun for the community, and they do well. I know a
Right.
lot of people in the comments will say like, you should do what you love based on passion, and who cares about the money? But it's like, it's a business to me. So it's like I still try to make content that I enjoy and I love, and the community will enjoy and love. But at the same time, I wanted to be able to hit the algorithm. I wanted to be able to, just stuff that people may not think about when it comes to content creation. Not trying to get too much off. Sorry. I realize that I'm getting kind of off. But
Oh, no
yeah,
worries.
so when it comes to like Arknights, I think it'll be like the main content, especially leading into Arknights Enfield. It seems to be more story driven, but of course we don't really know where that's gonna go because we've only
Mm.
seen the
When you put
preview. So
forth what's my goals of YouTube, I mentioned this a bit in my videos and even actually the other calls. I've called a few people here and there, and
mm.
I just realized this is a recurring question. That it's either I will ask it or the other party will ask me about it, which is what do we want to do for YouTube? Which, to me, I'm not too certain very much yet. Like, is this really where I want to be? Because uh, I never thought I'll content create for the longest of times. In fact, I wasn't confident. I was the same as you. I told my friend, no way, I wouldn't do streaming. Like, why would you think that I'm suited for this kind of thing? But my friend
Right.
pushed me into it, and then I did it, and then I realized I'm into it because people are actually watching me. So it was from there that I started to realize maybe there is a thing that I could do here. But I don't also think of it as I should. I mean, I've already built up for what it is, so it is best that I propel it forward as far as I can. So I do wish for the
Right.
channel to become big, but there is a limitation. So the limitation is like what you said about doing only one game. You're only going to grow based on that game, truthfully speaking. So the
Right.
trouble here is that if you compare to, say, like people who do things in Genshin, the reason why Genshin YouTubers are so successful is that there is a huge freaking global player base. We're speaking like
Mhm.
millions of players in the global player base. And that's incomparable to AK, where we possibly have more than 100,000, maybe slightly over 200,000, but certainly not anything too much higher than that. So you will eventually like hit a plateau where
Right.
if you do this so long, you're going to capture every single person who wants to watch you. And After that, then where will your growth go? So if I truly want to like do make myself bigger in YouTube, I have to sort of realize that AK cannot be forever when it comes to the content that I make. But that also doesn't mean that I intend to branch or intend to shift out from AK. So there is a few ways I could have done it. One is make multiple types of videos in one channel. But if that's the case, I will lose the fact that all this while my channel has been built to be centrally AK, because that's all my videos have been. The second way is I can have this channel on one end, but I'll have a second channel to do something else, which is the more likely take that I'll have. Like, as of now, do I see myself ever leaving AK? I don't think I can. I'm pretty glued to the community for what it is. And I've grown to love the game for long. Like, it's rare for me to find a game that I actually like to play for more than months. I play other gacha games as well, but nothing will last more than 3 months. Interestingly, everything will die out after a while. I get bored, but AK doesn't make me bored. AK is like, whoa, the content keeps coming and coming, and there's like so many things to look at and so many things to look forward to. So it's with that sort of like activity that this game has that makes me say, I think this is a good place to stay. And then if I really want to take this YouTube thing forward, what's the next step? And I've now starting to consider possibly branching out while still maintaining this channel. It's going to be a tall order though to maintain 2 places, but I don't know when I will pursue this path yet. For now, my full force is on AK. That's like the goal that I set. Make it even more prominent, make at least more people to enjoy my videos and discover me for who I am. At a certain point, maybe say when I start to hit like a 40,000 mark or 50,000 mark, that's when I might start to say, okay, I'm starting to become, the amount of subscriptions I have will be saturated. Like, that's as much people as I can go in this place. That when it will truly pick up beyond that sort of cap is number one, when the anime comes out. Because when the anime comes out, people will discover Arknights YouTubers. Then the second one, actually, the second one is when the Ian voices come into the game. I'm not sure if you've heard, but there are English voices that have been planned to be added to the game.
Oh, I didn't hear that actually.
Yeah, so
I know that they had CM and JP, right?
Yes. So back in the anniversary stream, I think that was around when you joined actually. So it was the event called Dorsalus Holiday. And during then, they announced that they will add English voices, but it has yet to be added to the game. I feel that when that happens, that could change things, because if they get good voice actors and actresses, that can make people more inclined to join the game, because they're like, oh, I know this guy, so I will play the game to support this guy. You get my point? Like, there are some people who really, really like voice actors and all. And so anime, Ian voices, and the third one is when Enfield arrives. When Enfield arrives, I wouldn't say there's going to be like, whoa, a huge storm entering AK. Because at the end of the day, Enfield and Arknights are actually very different games. And they are seemingly set in different worlds as well. So I think there will be some activity of people getting interested in Arknights because they're like, oh, this is from the same world. So how about I play AK to discover the storyline, that kind of thing. But I don't think it's going to be huge. In any case, I think these 3 things can increase the cap for what it is now. But none of them have happened yet. Anime is seemingly set to launch this year, I think. But there's no release date yet. Yes. So I'm looking forward to that.
Wouldn't that make it kind of hard as a YouTuber and stuff? Because I don't know what type of stuff you do for like the anime, of course. I think it kind of sounds like you're just kind of hoping that the anime will bring people to play. AK, I like to do a couple different like reactions and stuff like that where anime gets kind of fishy on that.
Anime is fishy because of copyright.
Yeah, copyright and stuff like that. And I'm guessing Arknights will have to abide by that because they're probably going to go through, you know, the right channels for the anime and the music and stuff like that. So it's not always going to be up to them whether they copyright strike your stuff. It's kind of like the same thing with the collab music videos that they do. Sometimes I get hit with those, which, you know, I'm all okay with that because it goes to the right people and stuff. But talking about like your cap, that is like my biggest, I don't want to call it a fear, but like the channel, the size that I'm at, I have a lot to move into. You know, I'm not really getting to the point where I'm like, oh well, I'm scared, you know, because I'm only at 5K. So it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, you know, you talk about cap and stuff and like where it's going to kind of progress. And I've always had kind of the issue of like, okay, well, does YouTube, I think of it from like an algorithm standpoint, does YouTube like, for example, if you push out just content on AK, does that help you because YouTube understands that you make this video, it's going to push it to the right audience because you've established this audience and it knows that. It
So,
almost feels like whenever
mhm.
I do like AK stuff, especially at the beginning, because it was just kind of like, here's a new guy, and everybody kind of like, oh, okay, cool. And then they kind of like filtered it into like AK, and then I kept making AK stuff, and then YouTube was just like giving like the impressions and all that kind of stuff. And then whenever I make a different, like I do something like on Counter Side, for example, that's going to be coming out global. It's kind of like I don't know how to explain it. It kind of goes like up a little bit and then it kind of plateaus because like I feel like YouTube's just like, "Oh, what are you trying to do here? Like I thought you played
Yeah, yeah.
AK." Like it doesn't understand that it's like mobile games, gotcha games. Like I don't think it broadens to that extreme. You know what I mean? Like I think it's just like, "Oh, people like Arknights, here's Arknights content. People like Counterside, here's Counterside content, but this game isn't as big as this or whatever." So I've always struggled with this like the second channel thing. Like I'm in no position to even think about a second channel because I have ways to grow and stuff like that on this current channel. But yeah, that's just one thing that I really struggle with because I want to make like daily content. I'm going to want to stream. And it's like, I'm just like, every time, it's kind of like what you were saying. Like, I play these games, like these other gotcha games, and I really love Punishing Raven for what it is. You know, I really like the story and stuff like that. But it's just, I don't know. Like, maybe it's because I played those type of games a lot when I was younger and, you know, stuff. So I just hit the point where it's like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months in, you know, the characters are cool, the story's cool, but it's whatever. I don't like it's kind of like FPSs for me. And I just can't really sit there and
Mhm.
play them a lot because I used to play them when I was young. Arknights is a totally different type of game that I've played, plus the story, plus the events. It always makes me feel like I'm doing something, I'm learning something, I'm working towards something. I don't know. So I don't know. It just make I always like point back to like Arknights and like, yeah, this is just like whenever I think about my channel, I don't see it. Wherever I go, I don't see it without Arknights being part of it. Whether it evolves into like infield, maybe that's more my niche for like the type of game it is. I don't know, or whatever. But I'm pretty dedicated in thinking about how do I want to say this? Like investing in the dev team like themselves. So Arknights is a really cool game. And I think that does so well is because of the way the devs handle it and the way
Mhm.
that they've built a community that's like, and I said this the other day of is Arknights free to play? And I was just giving my personal take. I think some of you guys have broke down exactly like you know what free to play means and stuff like that. And I think Arknights is pretty free to play. And I even made the point at the end that I feel like it actually cultures people to spend more
Yeah,
because if something's really free to play and you're like, oh, I really love the game, and I'm already getting free stuff, like getting 24 free pulls on a limited banner. I know it takes like 300 if you get really bad luck to get the
yeah.
limited character, but 24 free pulls plus all the daily, you know, currencies and stuff like that. It was just mind boggling that like they want you to, wouldn't they want you to spend on a limited banner? You know what I mean? Like in their head, when they be like, let's capitalize on the limited banner. People are going to spend the skins. Why would we give a way to get it for free when we could just capitalize on it? But they don't do that. They're just
Right,
like,
right, right.
here's a couple free ways to do. If you manage your currency correctly, you can get skins, whatever skin you want for free. Of course, you can't just go buy the shop, but it's just that was one of the things where like the devs understand the player base. They understand that there's this ratio of free to play players. They know that people will well out if they like certain stuff, and they're happy with what they get. It's not like let's try to get those free to play players to be whales. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they're not trying to convert whales. They're just like, if you want to whale out, here's a couple cool things you can get. If you're free to play, here's some stuff for you. It might not be like, you know, a free limited character, but here's
Uh-huh.
24 pulls. And I had so many people in Discord. Oh, I did my free 10 pull. I got near light or radiant
No,
night. Sorry.
no.
Sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah. So and it was like it was cool to see. I got her on my last 10 pull. I finally had like just enough for a 10 pull. I'm like, I'm doing it. And I got her. So I was like, cool. But it was just, I don't know. It's interesting to see. And it's actually made me spend, I don't spend money typically on games. Like
Right,
gotcha games and stuff like that. I bought like the pass for Punishing Raven, like the monthly pass. I typically do that if I really like a game. But I spent, you know, like $100 or something like that on Arknights. And it's not because I'm like, I feel like I need to accelerate my stuff. I'm like, oh, this is
right.
kind of cool. I want this character. This is kind of cool. Like I'm buying it out of like waifu reasons. It's just
It
like it's you
it's a
know,
very um un not I wouldn't say unseen. It's just a very irregular way of monetization that usually games do it in a way where you feel like you must have the character, you
yeah,
must have
right.
everything. So you spend in order to get like a copy or even multiple copies. Like there are other games where they promote the need to continuously put on the banner so that you really stack up like all the buffs of the character, for instance. But AK doesn't do that. AK is like, yeah, we're going to give you some free stuff. If you're lucky, hopefully you get it. If you're not lucky, you can always try again next time. And I mean, apart from the banners, we're going to give you all these cool things, skins that you can pay for free, to be fair, if you save the original Prime.
Yeah, right.
Or you can just spend some in the game and then treat that to your operators. And it also applies to building of operators, because you can take it slow, enjoy the pace, or you can speed it up. But the game gives you lots of free stuff. The event splurges you with materials after materials so that you can build many things at once. But if you want to, you can always pay. So it's a very like counter way of making people pay, where you don't make people feel terrible and that's why they pay. You make people actually feel like, whoa, this game is doing so much. I want to support this game. I want to at least like feed like $1 or $2, maybe buy a monthly card. And then I'm helping the game in some way. And it's also making me happy as a player. That's like the big amazing stuff. And the game is also trying to improve on the way that it treats their players. Do you buy the monthly card by any chance?
Yeah, I do.
So this is a bit of a surprise, but in about 5 months from now, there was I think you've watched the CN live stream, did you?
I watched a recap of it. I didn't watch the entire thing.
Do you recall that they changed the value of the sanity packs? So, okay, if you've not recalled that, in the monthly card, they give like a 60 ml sanity pack. So it restores 60 sanity. That particular stream, they announced that they were changing all 60 ml packs to 80. So it restores 80 instead. And the price of the monthly card did not change.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying though, because it's add value to like they could just up $1 and I guess people would probably pay it, but it's just like they're like, here's for being awesome, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. And then the 100 ml packs also became 120. So they gave the free to play an incentive as well, because you get those 100 ml packs in the daily quest and the weekly quest. You get 2. So now you, instead of 200 sanity, you get 240 in a week. And everyone gets a piece of the pie. If you pay, we'll give you a little more. If you don't pay, don't worry, we still got something for you. And it's that kind of thing that, the developers really, really care for their players. They release lots of content and even game modes that you will face in a little bit that you will also pretty much enjoy. So, and I don't think you have to feel all too bad about like sticking into AK and whatever. I recall just now when you stated that you play different games and whatnot. Yeah, you're kind of right that YouTube goes cranky when you don't release the same thing in one go. But it takes a while for it to recognize. Like, for instance, if you want to become like a mobile game YouTuber, you gotta keep like that sort of trend of that I'm playing different mobile games each time and this is what I am for kind of thing. Until YouTube starts to recognize, okay, we see this is your pattern. And then that's what we're going to recommend to people.
Okay. So you think it's more personal? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You can go ahead.
No, go ahead. What was your question?
I was going to say, so do you think it's more individual based? Because I thought it was more genre based, where it was just like people like AK, so they put stuff out to AK. Do you think it's more like it sees your personal patterns in the way that you upload, and then it's like, how can I push your personal videos out to more people? Or do you think it's more like,
I feel like
play AK, so here's.
I feel like the algorithm. No, I feel like the algorithm is better when when you're doing only one thing at a time. So if you're a fashion YouTuber, all you do is fashion, they will recognize, okay, I'll recommend that to those type of people. If you only cook, that's that. But if you do multiple things, I feel like it takes longer for YouTube to recognize. Which is also why a lot of YouTubers then start to like not have a double game tactic. They just fall back on one. In the past, you start to see some of the older creators, or even current ones, where they flip between two. And I don't think it helps with the views, but I feel like if they do it regularly enough, it starts to stabilize across like all of it, because YouTube recognizes that's what you're doing. I do think the algorithm is not based on the masses, it's based on the individual. But it's also the individual's duty to proliferate the content. Because if as much as we say like algorithm and whatsoever, we also got to understand that even if your video gets recommended, you need people to click. That's like also another thing that you have to do, like the duty of a YouTuber, that the algorithm could recognize you, so therefore people who play Arknights will identify you for all the Arknights videos that you post. But then the next step is, okay, the video is now on their feed. Can you make them click on your video and then watch you play? Like, that is going to be like the interesting part of the process of content creation. It takes a while. The good thing is, after you get a bunch of subscribers, then you can think of these people as the ones who, although not all 100%, it's probably going to be like maybe 20%, 40%, 10%, depending on your viewer base. But there will be the percentage of people who will watch you for whatever it is. And those people are going to be the ones who help you to make the videos go out even wider. So I'm not someone who studies the algorithm very tightly, but I see the way that some other YouTubers have behaved. I feel like you are meant to make the algorithm help you somehow.
Right.
Yeah. But it's not an easy task, because I think I can only speak of the experience of this singular channel that I make. If I do make a second place, I can imagine that second place is going to be even more chaotic. I probably won't have a designated thing, which there's a reason why big YouTubers also remain big. It's despite them playing different games each time, they still get recommended by people, because YouTube has started to then recognize people are watching not because of what this guy makes. People are watching because it's this guy. Like, I get pretty annoyed whenever I watch one particular giant YouTuber video, and all of a sudden I get recommended all of his videos at once. Because I feel like YouTube recognizes this is some huge celebrity human being. Now watch all his videos because you've just seen one of his.
Right.
I think that is one of the final steps that a lot of YouTubers will try to take, where now it doesn't matter what people search, people are looking towards you. Basically, your personality becomes, or your identity becomes the product. But it's not the easiest to get there. It takes a long time. But I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable to soon enough dabble with the idea where people watch me for just me. If I look in terms of my AK viewers right now, it wouldn't be the largest majority where everyone here will watch me for me. I think there are, but maybe not even half. So my point of focusing in AK is also to try to grow that percentage, so that when I start to have future endeavors, these people who have enjoyed my content for thus far will just say, hey, whatever that you do, we'll support you in that. And they will also then be the one to help to make whatever is the next thing even bigger for me. So that's kind of also why I'm taking it slow to think about branching out. I think it's not bad as a smaller creator to first focus on one game at a time. It helps because you get more people to know you, get more people to recognize you, and eventually, if you truly want to do other stuff, you want to make yourself bigger, then that's when you get into that consideration phase. Do you leave this place that you have technically relied on to build who you are, or do you still stay in it and somehow shift? Which is your route? Because many different YouTubers have done different things to counter that problem. But I'm definitely not the sort that will say, look back and forget, don't look back and forget the past. That's not me. I'll feel terrible leaving this space. So yeah, that's that. Oh, and also to mention about the way that you've done your YouTube videos and all, I don't think you have to feel all too pressured that you're providing different content or whatever. Thus far, right, of all the YouTubers, this sounds like it's a very strange thing to say, but of all the YouTubers in the AK space right now, you're one of the only few that I'm watching on the regular. Because it's exactly because you are showing something that I never seen in AK for such a long time. It's either a reminiscence, nostalgia or something, but the point of AK is the fact that the gameplay is a learning process. It's not like a drag and drop, you go to bed, you see your stage clear on its own. It's a very active game, despite being a mobile 2D chibi game, actually. Right. So to see someone go through that process, it's it feels nice to see someone playing the game like you and then also thinking. You don't feel very lonely. in that aspect, that's why I feel that you do have an audience when it comes to you trying to solve those stages. Like, I thoroughly enjoy those stuff. Other creators are not necessarily doing that. If I look at some of the newer creators, a lot of them do follow the same route as well, where they go by reactionary content, which is not something that I do. If it's not that, then it'll be guides. People will make some information videos, or they will just post cool gameplay because they played the game for so long, and then they show you like crazy 6 stars, maybe some low rarity stuff. That's that. So whatever that you have brought, it's a very fresh to the table kind of feeling. And as far as you may not have had a lot of people watching you yet, I sense that audience will grow over time. Who knows, especially after the introduction through this little call as well, that can even help. So that's something that we look forward to. And also, since I've mentioned like the goals that I have to YouTube, what are your goals for YouTube if that's the case?
Okay, so I think I fall in the boat of more like I see what I want it to become, but the path is kind of not as distinct as I'd like it to be. So
there's an end
what I
goal,
would like
but
to, yeah, like how to get there. I'm not much of a planner. I'm more of like I kind of react and just kind of go with the flow. I would say that I would really, I don't know what it takes to be full time. What I think that's means things to different people depending on where you live and all that kind of stuff. But I would like to see it to the point where I love making content. I always have. I like to do it. That's why I did it on Twitch. I feel that it's just something that grabs me. I don't know what it is. Whenever I think about doing traditional jobs or anything like that, it's just something that like I know that I would be okay with, but I would always just be content. I would never really feel like I'm
achieved, is it?
I don't know. Yeah. I never really feel successful in that way. So whether this ends up ever just being like a 50K channel and that's it, it's just that's where it sits at the top. I would have liked to look back and be like, at least I got that far, even if it dies at that point or whatever. It's like at least I put my effort and time into something that I felt that I really was passionate about. So that's why I overthink a lot, and that's kind of why I have not much confidence, because I see the goal of like I want to make full time, whatever that means, but it makes me also feel a little bit like everything that I'm doing has to lead to that goal, and it has to be this huge step. Like you know what I mean? Like there's like a quote, where when you're trying to build a wall, you don't think about building the most perfect wall. You think about each brick that you lay
Right.
that brick as perfectly as you can, and then eventually you'll build the strongest wall. And I have a struggle of seeing what I want the wall to be and then not laying each brick perfectly, because I think about,
I think
so yeah.
what makes it like a little bit more at ease to do something like that is to kind of like put it down to a smaller goal. Even though like I think for a lot of people who dabble into the YouTube or Twitch space, they hope to become a really, really big creator. But
Right.
if that's like a very long train route, a lot of people, most people will not become that one-time wonder that we see on YouTube where they suddenly say, I'm going to hit 1 million views, and all of a sudden they do that and then they become like 1 million subscribers everywhere. It's very rare as much as we do see on YouTube. That's the reason being the algorithm recommends them to us. But it's like,
Right.
what? They recommend to us the 10 successful people and they don't show us the 10,000s of people who do the same thing and do not get recognized. So it's we can't see it as it's going to be a fast process. In fact, if we look at a lot of the old time YouTubers, some of the big content creators that we have today, whether it's like Markiplier, we see how PewDiePie has grown to become the 100 million subscriber he is, Mr. Beast as well. Like all these big guys, they took years to become where they are. And I think it's perfectly fine that it's a long journey, but yet at the same time, with it being a long journey also makes it very scary, because it's like, will we ever reach there? So to make it easier on ourselves, we can always break it down to smaller goals. So one of the things that I'm almost 2 years into, no, I'm actually not 2 years into YouTube. I'm only 1.5 years into YouTube. But I do that sort of like small goal setting. Actually, I learned this from my previous company. So I think when I started YouTube from the very beginning in January last year, I told myself, all right, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm just going to make sure that by the end of this year, I'll hit 10,000. I have no idea what was I doing. I was just like, I'll just hit 10,000. And basically with that sort of intention, I will tell myself that every video that I make, I need to go and think about, okay, 10,000 is a huge number. So every day with each video that I make, how do I want to climb to that little number? That sort of thing. And then it sort of just like keep going up for whatever that it is. I also start to study things that people like to watch, people don't like to watch. And it's quite a bit of a struggle as a content creator because you need to blend in what you want to make and what you realize people want to watch. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then after a while, when you start to find that balance, you go with it. And I did hit the 10K goal. In fact, it was exceeded by a lot. And it's perfectly fine that you hit the goal and it exceeds, because if it exceeds, then the next curiosity is, oh, I hit the goal, but how much more of the goal did I hit? So I just kept on, I think it was like 18,000 by the end. And so I was like, whoa, that's like huge. So I'm almost 2 times from that. And then I set the same goal onto myself again this year. Okay, I've hit nearly 20K last year. So what's the next one? I mean, it's going to be weird if I set a smaller goal. Technically, you're always trying to get bigger. So I also tell myself, okay, by the end of this year, if I can get 50K, then that would be sweet. And it's the same thing. I'm not going into it with technical concrete steps. I just think of it as that's just where I want to reach. And every single day, I shall just break it down to small little things that will contribute to that. It doesn't also have to be subscribers. It can also be other metrics that you might think is a good measurement for what you're doing. It could be maybe say, oh, I want my current videos to go from maybe 1,000 viewers to 2,000 viewers. Even though you use my guides, by the way, interestingly, my guides were never used in the past. I did make guides early on, and my direct competition would be Killstin and Ekogen, because they also make a lot of guides. And then there are new faces popping up as well. So one of my biggest challenge was, how do I offer something that these guys are not making? How do I make my guides different that people will want to watch? So I recall back then it was like 1,000, 2,000. And it took a while for it to become, at some point, 5,000, 7,000. And then if a guide is really, really popular, then that's when it will go over 10,000. That sort of thing. Like, that's the kind of thing where if you just set a small little goal where you tell yourself, I want to just see this trend go up, I think that's enough for you to go. Like, maybe a simple way to look at it is, don't flatline. That's all. Just keep looking at it as, if I increase by even 1 today, I'm happy. That's progress.
Right.
That's to me. Yeah. Like, if 1 is not enough for you, then you can say, okay, I should increase by 10 at least every day. That kind of example. And if it's not just view count and subscribers, the other thing that you can consider will be, like, even for some people, they are concerned about the money that they earn on YouTube, which that could be a way that you can study as well, so that you can see, if you truly want to make it full time, is there a certain amount that you want to reach? And then you think to yourself, is it realistic that, for example, I want to earn 2,000 USD at the end of this year, looking at how I am? If 2,000 is too high, okay, then let's break it down to smaller amounts. I'm seeing what I earn per month. Let's try to make it like 100 per month. Let's try to make it 300 per month. That sort of thing. So always take it slow. Like, don't be too pressured by your end goal. I think end goals are cool and very like aspirational, but
Right.
I'm someone with high aspirations as well, but I tell myself not to cloud myself with that. Like, it's always a long journey to get to whatever that you want. Even being in school and studying, you don't study become a genius out of nowhere. You gotta read your goddamn notes over and over, take a new course, take a new subject, stress over the same process again. Yeah, everything is a step. I think that's kind of like what we come to learn when we're above 20 years old. Sucks to be in the 20s. you understand more of life, and then you start to get more miserable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially I'm about 30, so I mean I got 4 years, but it feels a lot closer than it did when I was 22, So no.
Yeah, but that's pretty much how I would describe of YouTube. Now, I think it is quite a long conversation that we have. Is there something that, or even a few things that you may have wanted to ask me through this call? It's like how you have asked me about YouTube and stuff like that. Like a topic that you may have wanted to bring up.
trying to think. We covered like a lot of stuff. So
Right.
a lot of the stuff I was just kind of asking as we went.
Mm.
Because we talked about like your goals and all the different things that you want to do and kind of where you see yourself in Arknights, which is kind of the stuff that I wanted to bring up is like,
Mm-hmm.
what's your kind of thought on like going forward with Arknights and stuff. But I would just say, trying to think of like a good question here.
No, it's fine. It's fine if there's no questions as well. Yeah, because it's just because there are sometimes that there are some people that I bring on and they're like, oh, I've been holding back this thing. Then I'm like, oh yeah, go ahead, because we're calling right now. So
Oh.
I let that be free flow basically.
Oh no, I pretty much just ask things whenever I think of them. So I try not to be
Right,
rude, but whenever it comes up in my head, if I don't ask it right when I do, I'll forget about it and I'll move on.
right.
Kind of like the
Okay.
one take thing. So
But even so, I'm glad to see that you are a new creator that's coming into AK. Hopefully, you enjoy the time here, and even more people will discover you for what you're doing for the community as well. I love the fact that there are new creators coming in. It's a joy because it's a sign to say that the game is still growing and the game is still gaining attention. Because with it's like how we say that gacha games come and die, that sort of thing.
right,
It's surprising that AK has not done that yet. We are reaching, we're more than 2 years old and we're reaching our third year very soon. And yet the game is still alive when other gacha games tend to die by now. So,
right,
and yet there are new faces like yourself, other content creators, other players. So hopefully you all can find this to be a very homely place and other people. I think that's also a thing that you realize of the community. Technically, the community will really take care of each other somehow. You don't get this in every game. I would think. The viewers are generally very supportive of the content creators, so that it's like
yeah.
a joy that you'll find in the bit. And that is a perfect part to ask as a closing question. What would you say to the people who's watching this video today
Ah,
and watching for you?
okay. So first off, I just want to thank you for having me on. It was a joy to even talk. I've been wanting to talk to you for a bit just because I've watched some of your content and I've seen like, I don't know, I feel like you have this certain presence and stuff. And I was like, I always want to like connect to this dude. So it was really cool. But regarding like the community themselves, and this isn't even me trying to like, stack up the Arknights community. It is literally one of the most welcoming communities that I've ever had. Okay. So I've started out with like Punishing Grave and Global right from the get go of community.
Uh-huh,
So I've been there from day one communities.
uh-huh,
I've kind of like talked to communities a little bit older, but I've never really felt like I didn't belong in Arknights. When I messed up on something, there was never a wall of like, hey, you should have done this, this, and that. And if there was, it was more like, I'm trying to help you, like the viewer, like for example, some of the veterans and stuff like that, they'll explain things, but it's never in a tone like, hey, you're kind of, not smart for doing this way. You didn't do it
mm,
right. It's more or less like, hey, if you want to be more efficient, you could definitely build this unit and this unit. But overall, like it always ends up with the last sentence being, play however you want to play though. This is just advice, or
oh, I
like, hey,
love
you
that.
should go get this person, or especially like this is something that I seen with the guide stuff. Typically, I don't like to look at guides when I'm trying to make the content because I think that's kind of the fun of it, right? Is to
Right.
see somebody go through it, whatever. And so I was like, do I even put out this video? Because it's not going to seem genuine. It seems like I'm kind of following somebody else's content. I don't want to piggyback on someone's content. And then when I made it, everybody's like, first off, Cookie Gazi is a super cool dude. I'm so happy that you use his guide and stuff. And then on top of that, everybody's like, hey, it's totally fine to use guides. And I tried in that video to to kind of give the message like, yes, I'm using a guide, but I understand the mechanics and I know why he was doing the things that he was doing. So I was trying to kind of tear down the barrier of just blindly following something. And a lot of people are just really supportive of like, hey, if you got to use a guide, you got to use a guide. That's 100% fine. So it's always seemed like the community is just like, I mean, as long as you're not like yelling at them or whatever, it's just weird. It's a weird community, to be honest, because like everybody's so nice and supportive. And it doesn't matter if you're like a veteran, if you've been playing for years, if you're a content creator, if you're just some random. I have people in the Discord that just join and they do this weird thing where they first join, they'll say in general, they'll just be like, sorry, I kind of just joined for Arknights. And it's like 100% fine. Go down there and start talking. But they're always so nice. Most people would just be like, yeah, I'm not here to talk to you. I'm here to go to the Arknight stuff. And it's like, but everybody who always joins in the general is just like, hey, sorry, I just joined for the Arknights, and they're super nice about it. It's like 100% fine. You will see like 50 people down there. They're all joined for the same reason. I 100% understand. Like, I'm not the star of the show. The game is like, I understand that. So it's just really cool to see how like nice they are. I don't know what cultured that. I don't know if it's just the devs or just kind of the love and intensity for the community, but like even like gameplay or like story stuff, some people have said like, hey, if you want to watch like breakdowns and recaps of the stories, we don't care. You don't have to read everything. It doesn't matter. Like in some communities are pretty hard on like, you need to, as a content creator, you need to make sure to read each and every story yourself and stuff like that. A lot of people are like, man, I didn't read any of that. I skipped it 5 hours long. I ain't watching that. Like, you know what I mean? So there's everybody and everywhere, and they're all really supportive. So I don't know. It's really nice to see.
It's a refreshing thing to see a game where you are not dictated for what to do. You can do whatever you want in it, and you don't get that out of games like a lot, because other
Right.
times you get players hounding you down for your actions that you make. Why do you make this mistake and all that sort of thing. And over here, we're just like, nah, it's just your own thing. Discover the fun for yourself. Otherwise, it's not going to be fun. It
Right.
needs to be something that's very personal, and that's, I think, the very reason for why many of us still choose to play AK till today. So hopefully you get to enjoy that even more, and we all will wish that you have a long enough stay, as much as you may have other endeavors in progress, but that you'll find your liking for the game. So
Thank you.
that's that. All right. Okay. I think that is a nice enough closure. So you can say goodbye to the camera. I will do a stop the recording. Bye, everyone. Yep.